My rule of thumb, what we do is we lead with our best foot forward as far as pricing goes. Pricing is the only thing that matters. If I have full control over the pricing, I could sell a home without any photos, never mind bad ones, without any listing description, never mind a bad one. If you give me pricing control, I'm going to get that home sold. I'm going to get people interested. It's going to have a bidding war on it. Those are just things I know how to do. You run into trouble when you find people who think that I can replace a bad price or an overpriced home by supplementing it with really beautiful photos and a nice drone tour and incredible marketing. No, you can't. No, you can't. Stop lying to yourself. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to anybody else. It's not attractive. The reality here is there's just the one thing. Price is the only thing that matters. Because why? Because it's the only thing that can trigger FOMO. Once we trigger that FOMO, that's when all that other pretty stuff comes into play. That's when the photos matter. That's when the listing description matters.
This episode is for entertainment and information only. The opinions expressed are not professional advice, and listening does not create a client relationship. Always consult your own qualified professional before making any financial, legal, or health decisions. Hello, and welcome to the Healthy Wealth Experience. I'm your host, Chris Hall, and we are here today to bridge the gap between your physical well-being and your financial freedom. Today, we're diving into a different kind of independence. Joining us is Tim Street, the mind behind Foolproof FSBO. Tim is a specialist in empowering homeowners to take control of their own real estate journeys, cutting out the middleman to keep more equity in their pockets. Tim, welcome to the show.
Chris, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Yeah, this is exciting. So obviously, being a financial advisor, growing up in the same town for, pretty much my whole life. Obviously, I know probably 100 real estate agents, and so they're all going to be mad at me today. And that's okay. They're all going to be mad at me today. But it's like, people should hear the differences. They should know like right away, like, hey, there's options, right? Same thing for me. I'm a financial advisor, right? I'm not for everyone. Some people want to, open an Ameritrade account and do their own thing. I don't take offense to that. So, but I do really, let's talk a little bit about you, and then we'll get more into like why I want to join the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this part of the real estate.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so I actually I didn't ever plan on being a real estate agent, but I got my license because I wanted to be a real estate investor. And the quality of agents that I kept meeting up with to represent me was just nowhere near where I needed them to be. I come from the startup world, and I would head up sales teams in these really high pressure, high stakes environments. And we stopped at nothing to know everything about the deal to make sure that we could get it across the line because we were just a bunch of guys, in a basement, pounding away our computers, trying to trick, massive companies like Cisco and Qualcomm into thinking like we were, worth, and man, sometimes we would win. And I think a lot of that all came down to that tenacity of understanding how to negotiate, understanding how to bring like a high emotional IQ to the table and empathize with the people on the other side of it. And, bringing all of that experience, and I got into real estate investment, and I was, the first person they paired me up with was, somebody who's just doing it as a hobby between her kids' soccer games. And it's funny, you talk about real estate agents, getting mad at you for talking about this. I would say it's true to a point. It's the, oh gosh, now I'm going to make more people mad. It's the less successful real estate agents who are going to get mad at you. See, the people at the top of their game, like a Michelin star chef doesn't care if you make your food at home. You, Chris, you don't care if somebody buys Bitcoin on the side and they don't do that through your. I mean, there's real estate agents out there that have that scarcity mindset where they feel like they're entitled to every piece of business out there. And then there's the pros, the real professionals who say, listen, I don't care what anybody else does. I bring something unique and special to the table. Therefore, I'm always going to be busy. And so I would just say if someone's mad at you, it probably doesn't matter anyway.
No, that's an excellent point. I really do truly believe that you're nailing it, right? Because like on the show here, I've had two of the most successful realtors in our town. And again, they probably wouldn't care at all, but you're right.
They could care less about a guy like me.
Yeah. They're like, oh, this guy. Yeah, we've got 1 million of him, whatever.
Yeah. And actually those guys are my best partners. Like listen, and I'll also say this just to set the table. Real estate agents are worth their weight in gold. The right one in the right situation, they are incredible. So I'm not out there trying to say, listen, never use real estate. In fact, that'd be the dumbest advice ever. I don't like to speak in absolutes ever. But what I will say, it does make sense to sometimes look at your situation, look at the situation you're in, and find out, look, are you capable of following a blueprint? Are you capable of doing some project management? And if so, I mean, heck, on a $500,000 house, that might be worth 30 grand. That might be retiring on time or setting up a kid for college. So I think it's worth exploring.
I agree. So for those listening, I said FSBO at the beginning because it was a tongue twister for me and I was having a hard time with it. Explain to people kind of like what you do and what a FSBO is.
Yeah, so FSBO is an acronym for FSBO. It means for sale by owner. And for sale by owner simply means that you as the homeowner have opted to represent yourself in the sale of your home as opposed to outsourcing it to a professional like a real estate agent. In exchange for that, you would ostensibly save money on the commissions. Now, I will say that, as I had alluded to previously, in certain circumstances, it would be very penny wise and pound foolish to skip the real estate agent. Now, what good does it do you to save $30,000 in real estate commissions when your house sells for $50,000 less than you could have got with a pro representing you? So I mean, it's not the kind of thing, this tends to be people's most valuable asset in their portfolio. It's not the kind of thing where you want to watch a YouTube video or two and then decide you're an expert and you're going to go take the world by storm and sell your house and you're going to do as well as another person who's been doing it for 20 years. You're simply not. That's the reality of things.
Right. Now, I can't help but say that it looks like you and I are in an Alex Jones lookalike contest right now.
I know, dude.
For those of you guys that aren't like seeing what we're seeing here, you should go jump over to YouTube and look at this. So
funny. That's funny as hell. I've never heard that one before, but I'm gonna put that one in my back pocket for later. The kids will get a kick out of that.
So what got you started in bridging that gap for people who do want to try it on their own? What led you that? You said you started to do it because you just wanted to be your own investor. You want to save the commissions and stuff. But like, how did you transition that to like, hey, I should help somebody else with this?
Well, so the genesis of me going from individual investor, and which by the way, for those of you who are real estate or you're burgeoning real estate investors and you don't have your license, go get it. It's like the easiest thing in the world to become a real estate agent. And I mean, the inside scoop that I got, the intel I received, the ability to articulate my own negotiation positions was just, it was worth its weight in gold. So that's the first thing I would say. And that's ultimately why I did this. I then was approached by a good friend who needed help selling their house. And I was like, well, sure, I guess I could do it. I got the license. Why not? And it was at that point when I realized how wrong I was about, my perception of real estate agents was they throw some pictures online. They throw up a fancy listing description that looks like it was written by a robot. And, they stick a sign in the yard and they wait around. Man, it was a lesson in humility. Trying to say there is a lot of work that goes into helping someone sell their home, buy their home. There's so much behind the scenes that I never realized that as just a civilian going out. I always thought real estate agents were kind of overpaid for what they did. And I mean, don't get me wrong, having helped a lot of people sell their homes, I can tell you some were much easier than others. And if I'm, being honest and saying, yeah, there were some times where I was like, gosh, I probably could have done it for less money and still walked away even for the amount of time I put in. But then in that same vein, there were some that were absolute nightmares. And I think what you end up finding is like, there's like this blended rate where some of the home sales are going to be easy, some of them are going to be hell. And, you just end up in a position where you're just charging the same thing for it all, regardless of the actual effort.
Right. Now, do you feel like the for sale by owner, do you really tackle like, I'm going to sell my house, or do you also help people who say, no, I want to buy a house and I want to go find somebody on my own and do the whole thing? Because like, the new rules basically say that the agent, each agent has to get paid separately. There's kind of a weird rule that they came out with. But like, are there people who are buying who are saying, I don't want to pay an extra 3% to have my own agent. I know what I like, which does sound foolish, by the way, but do you have people who do that as well?
No, so I don't personally help. I'm not equipped to coach people through that process, but I will say, I would probably do it myself if I didn't have my real estate license. In fact, that's what I started doing. I started attempting to do it anyway, but it was difficult to find people to talk to me if I wasn't a licensed agent. But buying on your own without an agent, because nowadays, especially on the buying side, most of the buyers are doing the majority of the work. They're going through all the homes. They're finding out which ones they like. I can't think of any of the homes that I've bought or anybody I know has purchased in the last several years that were brought to them by a buyer's agent. It's typically the other way around. These people are scrolling through Zillow. They'll find a home they like and they'll say, hey, Charlie, let's go check this one out. And then Charlie takes them over there. So I don't really coach people on buying, although I wouldn't say don't do it. I'm not an authority. My expertise is in selling. I'm great at teaching people how to get bidding wars, how to get above asking price for their home, how to sell faster than the rest of the market, how to use all that consumer psychology that I learned back in the startup days. I thought it was a different world. And in essence, it's not. It's the same thing. Sales is sales. And sales has less to, in fact, I would say sales has nothing to do with convincing somebody else of something and everything to do with understanding what they want and finding out if you're a good fit. And once people kind of make that mental shift and they understand that sales is actually a collaborative thing instead of an adversarial thing, those walls just come right down.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, personally, so I've obviously used a lot of real estate agents in my life, but I've also bought and sold homes without a realtor. So in fact, I didn't even stick a thing in the ground or put a thing. Like I had this one where I was trying to sell my house and I was thinking about going to a realtor and someone was like, I'd buy your house. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, the only problem is that he's like, but the only problem is that he goes, I have a house that I have to sell. And I was like, well, I'm building a house. So I'm going to be out of this. I need the equity from this home to help me build the house that I'm building. And I need a little place to stay while I'm building it. So you buy my house, I'll buy your house.
It's awesome.
And that's exactly what we did. And then,
then
after the house that I was building was completely built, I sold that little house and I actually the market was so crazy back then. I actually made like $25,000 on the deal. I'm selling the little house, which now, of course, and I will recommend this to people too. I wish I had that rental unit. You know what I mean? If you have a unit that is a nice rental unit, like it's different. If you have a nice house, $500,000, $600,000 house or something, I don't know. It depends on where you live, right? But if there's a really nice house, like I can understand how you don't necessarily want that to be a rental. But like if you have a lower, like entry level home that makes a good rental, man, like that's one of the things I think I wish I had all the real estate that I had bought. I wish I still owned all of it. So
for sure. Yeah. A lot of people say that. And I try to learn that lesson. I have never sold a home ever. And what I do is right here in, I shouldn't say I haven't sold it since I moved to Florida. I grew up in Detroit. Obviously I parted ways with everything I had there. But since I've been here in Florida, every house that I've moved out of, I've kept and rented out. And I put it in I have a short-term rental portfolio, vacation rentals. It's fantastic. I love it.
Are you doing cost segregation on those?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I cost seg all three of them. It's only three. I say portfolio and people think, oh, this guy's got 100. No, it's literally three. But those three generate such great revenue that it is a high lift. There's nothing passive about it. I mean, people think it's passive income. There's nothing passive about it. I've built a lot of systems to try to get it there, but it's still always going to take, you'll be out at dinner with your friends and the Wi-Fi is down at one of the houses. You're like, good Lord,
Right, for sure. How did you... So now, I've been to your website. It's awesome. It's got tons of material. How long did it take you to put that website together? And I'm sure it's still a work in progress because there's so much information every day. But
yeah,
to get a site where you're like, I'm proud of this. Like, I'm going to show this to people.
I feel like we update it probably every 4 or 5 days. There's something new to add to it. So I would say it probably took about 8 weeks before, it was perfect. About 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's built on Go High Level. I mean, it's a very simple CRM. And when I say 8 weeks, I mean from idea hitting to having it fully ready to go to market.
So that's excellent because I actually build websites. I started a marketing company 16 years ago. And so I built over 150 websites. I'm familiar with Go High Level. And I would tell you, working with some people, it could take me that long to build their website because they just won't give me the information that I need from them. So 8 weeks to go from idea to again, your website is very robust. It's not like the average, again, financial advisor or, lawyer in town. It's it's not basic. It's got a lot of information on there. So, and it's also got, the ability for people to go and pay for things. So tell us a little bit about that part. Do people pay a la carte? Do they pay for a one-time fee and then they get to have all access? What's that look like?
Yeah. So it's growing right now. And I started this, I really wasn't going to charge anything for it. And I kind of don't I tell people all the time, hey, how do we buy your course? I tell them don't. I save your money. Go on my YouTube and just watch, because I hold nothing back. I give everything, and I'm talking about how to stage your home, how to get great photos that's going to stop the scroll, how to negotiate with aggressive investors or agents when they call you, how to throw an open house that's going to like attract the media. Like I'm talking. I literally give that away. But people never, in 2026, people don't pay for information; they pay for organization. So if somebody insists, listen, I'm a college guy. I need a syllabus. I need a very structured orientation. I have that available. And it's kind of it's just my standard blueprint model. It's $397. And it's backed by our win no matter what guarantee. The win no matter what guarantee is, listen, you buy this $397 product, we're going to guarantee that you're going to sell your house successfully without an agent. If you don't, if you're unsuccessful for any reason, at my expense, I'm going to call your hometown. I'm going to find out who the top producing agent is in your area. I'm going to call them. I'm going to negotiate their commissions down on your behalf. I'm going to introduce you to them. You're still going to get your home sold, still save tens of thousands of dollars. And, that's why I call it the can't lose guarantee. Either way, I'm going to make it work for you.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty good. So now as a licensed real estate agent, you also get a referral off of that as well, though, right?
There you go. Yeah. So I get a referral from that. And then at the end of the day, what happens with the buyer is they will, once they let me know that they actually successfully sold, I actually refund 100% of their course through that referral fee that I get from the other agents. I've taken zero of their money because, in my opinion, I failed them. I did not succeed in getting their home sold fit for sale by owner. So I give them all their money back. I try to make this fair all the way around.
I mean, that is a really great stance on delivering value. You know what I mean? I mean, we live in a world right now where people will sell the course and they'll say, hey, I'll give you your money back if you don't do X, but hey, you got to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And if you don't do them in order, then I'm not going to give you a refund.
There's a lot of hoops
you're
to jump
basically
through.
like, hey man, sell this house or I'm going to help you sell this house. So
that's right. Yeah.
Cool.
I try to do everything I can to make this like a no-brainer, because I find the biggest thing stopping people from doing something like this is that limiting belief. And in my industry, us real estate agents, we've spent billions of dollars convincing American homeowners that selling your home is scary and it's stupid to try to do on your own, and you're going to get sued and you're going to lose money. And here's the thing. I don't speak in absolutes. We're not always wrong. Sometimes it is a stupid thing to do. Sometimes it is a foolish thing, but it's not always. And so I imagine people like my parents. My parents are in their 70s. My dad, they do DIY projects constantly, like for fun. I can't imagine anything less fun than laying out 3 yards of mulch in the middle of August. My dad's out there doing it. He cuts his own grass. He's a bigger man than I am in his 70s, right? So dad's incredible. But these are the kind of folks where like $30,000 to my parents, that's a big deal, to a younger family where maybe it's a stay-at-home mom, the dad's working, and when the kids are at nap time, she can study the course. And they could take that extra money and that goes toward the down payment of their next bigger house because they're expecting, or it's a college fund, whatever it is. That's kind of why I'm doing this. I want, and the whole story that started all this is actually really embarrassing. If you don't mind me telling you this part, I was my last listing, the last listing appointment I ever went on was a nice older couple, very sweet, very nice, but also the type of folks who they almost believe anything an expert told them. And so a guy came in before me, another listing agent, and he told these nice people that he was going to be able to get $500,000 for their home, which maybe was worth $400,000 if it was really well done. And the reason he was going to be able to do that is he had 10,000 Instagram followers, and he took drone videos, and he took home tours, and he had a bunch of rich investors who would buy this. Well, so when the folks told me about the guy's pitch right before me, I knew it was done. I was like, I'm not going to win this. And then I'm in this weird position where if I try to tell them the truth about what's happening, I look like the jerk.
Right.
Like
Sour
I'm just
grapes.
like,
right.
Yes.
You can't hang with him. Right.
And it sucks because it's hard. It happens so often in the industry. It's something that there's a name for it. It's called buying the listing. And buying the listing is when you tell a homeowner something so good it's not even true, all in the hopes that they like you enough that they'll list with you. So then why do you do that? Because then you get to plant your billboard in their front yard, collect sign leads. Meanwhile, that house sits there for 6 months, gets a stigma on it that it's the house that can't sell, therefore there's something wrong with it. their perceived value goes down. It disappears into witness protection. And these people, these nice old people, they ended up selling their house for around 365 with a new agent. They couldn't even get 4 because when they came back to market, people were like, what was wrong with it? Why didn't it sell the first time around?
Right.
It's just such a crappy thing. Anyway, on the way home, I had this, that cartoon we have the angel and the devil on your shoulder.
Sure.
I swear it wasn't like that exactly, but I did have this really, really ugly thought creep in my head. It's like, listen, Tim, it wouldn't take much for you to just kind of throw your integrity on the fire. You can lie to people. You could tell people whatever you want, and you're very convincing. And I know I am. I could lie to these people. I could make them believe it. And I could, if one of those, if you can't beat them, join them. And I got so sick at the thought that I have an incredible life. Like my life is amazing. I have the most incredible kids and wife and like everything you could ever want. And I'm going to spit in everybody's face and become one of these scumbags just to get for another commission check that I don't need. And that's why I decided I'm done. I'm not a good enough of a person to be able to stand up to that temptation for the rest of my life. I resisted it that one time. Eventually I would have broken, become one of them. So that's why I just kind of washed my hands and I said, I'm just giving my system away at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So
I feel like, you're making a lot of good points. I can think of people right now in this town because I'm always looking at real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I own real estate, and I can think of people in this town right now that are so worried about their Instagram followers and like making this high quality production video that they can, clip and show and act like they're on, the Millionaire Listing or whatever it's called. I don't watch that show, by the way, but I mean, like all that stuff, you know what I mean? I could see it. And then when I go to look at their listings, it's like everything in the market plus 10%. So like if we're looking at, $257 a square foot is the average, per square foot where we live, theirs is going to be at 275, roughly. And you're saying it like perfectly. Like I can look at their listing and be like, that's going to be a price reduction in 45 days. And sure enough, 45 days later, bam, back down to kind of where everything is supposed to be. But by then, in my opinion, you've lost all those initial people. Like you can't go back to them and be like, hey, by the way, price reduction. I mean, you can, but then they're like, okay, well, now I feel like I should be getting more. Maybe you should reduce it even further. Or they're like, I don't want it. Just puts a bad taste in people's mouths.
That's it, Chris.
So I hear exactly what you're saying. It's very normal. I think in every market, there's going to be a few people that are just like that.
100%. And it trains the consumer. Here's the worst part is once that first price reduction happens, they know there's going to be another one. And then you basically have trained the consumer to sit and say, well, I'm just going to wait because I know there's going to be another price reduction. And instead of training them to execute on it, this is why we approach it in an entirely, the old advice is price high with room to negotiate down. That advice expired back in the 1980s. We're not selling ShamWows on TV. We're selling a product in a world of Amazon where people comparison shop since they were 11 years old. And that's all they do to this day is they comparison shop. So if you have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot, if you're priced even above where everybody or anybody else is, if you're not the lowest priced home of that group, forget it. Don't even come to me and talk to me about it. You need to undercut the lowest priced guy. Within reason. Obviously, if it's missing a roof or it had a fire, then of course. But if there's homes out there that are at least similar. And now a lot of people freak out. They're like, well, no, Tim, I don't want to get less money. I want to get more money. Well, yeah, no kidding. That's the whole point of this. There's nowhere that says you have to, number one, accept any offer given to you as a homeowner. There's not a court in the land that's going to say, no, Bob offered you $5. You must take $5. You don't have to take any offer. But second of all, what I'm trying to tell you is the only thing that increases the value of a home is scarcity, exclusivity, and how much you could spike FOMO in the people looking to buy it. So if you have a price that's priced below market, and you have a 2-hour opening weekend open house, you're going to have people fighting for parking. You're going to have people rubbing elbows in the kitchen. You're going to have arguments breaking out. It's great. It's a zoo. It's a circus, but that's what you want. Because every single person who walks through there, that perceived value through that social proof has gone through the roof. And you're going to get above asking all the time, well north of what you would have done if you had priced, I'll be reasonable, I'll price in the middle of the market. Sorry, no, that's not how it works in 2026 with Amazon.
Wow, that's such good advice. That is really good advice. Like, if you're listening, write that down. Because like, in my mind, I'm always trying to like, if I was going to sell something, I'm always trying to get to that like, well, I mean, I want it to be fair for them, but I also want to get the most amount of money. But you're right, like scarcity sells. And so if you do, like you said, a 2-hour open house, and you have it like priced below everybody else, I mean, you might get offers that day, and again, the realtors know what the market is, right? So they're gonna say, hey, listen, if you want to be realistic, you're not going to be able to offer this. You're gonna have to go higher.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so then next thing you know, you're getting offers over your listing, but it's that action that you're getting. I love the idea of like having all these people walk in and out of an open house. That's phenomenal. What do you do with the buyer's agent? So in other words, I'm trying to sell something. I've done what you've said. I've got a good listing on it. By the way, I've actually at one point owned I had a real estate license as well. I didn't care for it either, but I got into the same reason for you. I just wanted to have the information, the knowledge. $397 is like really inexpensive to be really tutored on this kinds of things. So even if you don't want to sell your own house, but you want to know more about real estate and how it works, that sounds like a very small investment. But what do you do with people when they are like, you're doing for sale by owners, so you're trying to save the 6%, you don't think you need it, but sure enough, every phone call, every email, every text message, what about buying agents? What about buying agents? So tell me what you respond to them on that.
We happily work with buyers. I tell my people 100% welcome them with open arms. Tell them, put it on your Facebook marketplace. Listen, yeah, we'll absolutely cooperate with buyer's agents. And the reason is buyer's agents automatically think a for sale by owner is going to be more work for them. So they tend to avoid it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So much of that initial resistance can be broken down by how we present ourselves in the listing. Look, if you've got iPhone pictures and your thumb's on the lens and it looks like a crime scene photo and you don't even mention buyer broker cooperation, they're going to know that you're an amateur, and they're either going to lowball the hell out of you and try to big time you, or they're not going to talk to you at all. So by having a very professionally constructed, produced, well shot listing description, addressing the buyer broker cooperation right in the description if you need to. Obviously, you can't do that in the MLS anymore, but you can absolutely do that in Nextdoor, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all these other websites. You could really kind of set yourself up to be, if not on par, but even better than some of the listing agent represented listings out there. And that's the goal. It's to let the agents know that, hey, yeah, I might not be a licensed real estate agent, but I understand the game. I'm a pro at this, and you're going to enjoy working with me much better because I don't have a broker to answer to. I'm my own man or my own woman, therefore.
Right.
So I absolutely love working with buyer's agents. I recommend my people, again, there's an old saying that pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Don't be so greedy that you're going to turn your nose up at a $500,000 offer because you might have to pay somebody $10,000 to bring it to you. If writing a $10,000 check got me $490, I'd write that check as many times as my hands could write it. So don't be silly. They're bringing you a vetted buyer. They are going to do work on their end, and you know what? It's the cost of playing poker sometimes. So I look at it as any ally I can get, because that agent, what if that buyer doesn't like your house? Well, that buyer's agent is probably working with other buyers. So who's to say they don't come back with 3 or 4 other people at some point down that because you treated them well, you treated them like a professional.
Right. What about so like cost wise? You said $500,000 house, maybe $10,000. That's 2%. I know that a lot of realtors, they want to get 3. Like, is that part of the negotiation? You're like, hey, listen, I work with buyer's agents, but I do all the paperwork on my end. I appreciate you bringing me somebody. I'm offering 2%. Or do you have people say like, I'm offering 1%? Like, how does that, like, again, like you don't want to step over, dollars to get to pennies, but in the same respect, right, you do want to make sure that you're eking as much as you can out of that transaction.
So there's a couple of different ways I look at this. The first way I look at this is, having represented buyers myself in the past, I know in my heart of hearts, if somebody fell in love with a home and that homeowner was only willing to pay, let's say 2%, and I always charge 3, but let's say it was 2, and the couple didn't have enough money to make up that 1%, am I truly going to stand in the way of them getting into that dream? Hell no. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let them be happy. I'm going to say, you know what? Sometimes you win, sometimes you, hey, 2% of something is better than 0% of nothing, or 100% of nothing. So I said, in that case, practically speaking, most buyers agents are very decent, nice, ethical people who truly do want the best for their buyers. Of course, expect them to negotiate. Expect them to negotiate hard, because that's literally how they pay themselves, bring food home to their family. If somebody were to, call out of the blue and say, I need 3%. Is that what you're paying? I would say, listen, before I can even talk about those things, I need to see the entirety of the offer and the deal. And the reason I do that is because if someone's offered to pay me 3% on a full price cash offer that's closing in 7 days, yeah, I'll for sure look at that. If somebody's asking for 3%, they want me to take $100,000 haircut and they need the contingency to sell their existing home and it's going to take them 60 days to close and it's a VA loan or whatever. I'm probably going to have to pass on that. So one of the tools that I teach my students to use is it's a seesaw or a teeter-totter. Every time the other side, whether it's an agent, whether it's a buyer, asks for something, they have to give something in return. So in the event of a offer, if I'm advertising a 2% buyer's cooperation fee in Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and the buyer's agent says, well, I need 3%. We say, well, okay, cool. I can increase the price of the home and the buyers can pay you that at closing. You tell me what you prefer, but it necessarily has to have an equal and opposite reaction.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And I mean, oh my gosh, right? Telling a realtor that I'll bump the price to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, you will do it.
Now it's like they got to choose. Am I choosing me, and my commission, or am I choosing my clients? That's a real sticky wicket for sure.
Yeah.
So I really like that because I would say like the one time I did sell a home one time without a realtor as well. And I didn't like working with agents. So like agents would be like, hey, do you work with agents? And I'm like, I'll consider it. But in general, I didn't want to give up the extra 2 or 3%. I didn't want to. I didn't think I needed to. Right. And I think that does come down to it as well, right? So like if you're in a market where it's like super hot and you put it up for 400,000 and you've got like 7 offers in like a week for like 420 or more, like then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, well, I mean, I've got an offer here for 420 at 3% commission. I've got one here 420 for 2% commission. Well, that's probably what I'm going to go with. So I do think there's some caveats to that, right? So, but same thing, like if it's a terrible market and a guy's like, hey, I'll give you 3%, but I'm going to give you full price. You're like, I'm in. I'll take full price. So I think it's smart to have that. Like that mindset, because the mindset is close the deal, right? The mindset is close the deal. Don't take advantage of anybody. You know what I mean? But the same respect, it's like, you've got, again, when it comes to home buying, you probably know this as much as I do, which is like people are in. And then if they don't like what they hear, like with that contract or like that offer, like everybody just checks out. They're like, I'm just going to go look for something else. Even if it's like just tiny little bits away from it. I remember, this is me being honest and vulnerable. But I remember I was looking at this house and I wanted to buy it. It was the most expensive house in the neighborhood, which is exactly what you don't want to do. But it was the most expensive house in the neighborhood because the guy had literally bought it and gutted to the studs inside and out and then completely redid it. So it was a brand new house on a 30-year-old lot, really. But I wanted it. But it was like one of those things that's like, okay, listen, if we're going to buy this, then we're going to be kind of like real estate poor for a little bit. And so it was like they had these 4 bar stools and I wanted them. And I was like, I want those stools. I want to include it in the offer. I was making like a full price offer. I wasn't even negotiating down, but I'm like, I want those 4 stools and I want the fridge.
Right.
And the guy kicked back. His fridge, no problem. Like, no problem. The stools, I need these bar stools. And so me and my agent and him and his agent were like, bar stools, And then finally my agent's like, listen, I talked to the other agent. We're buying the bar stools.
That's what I was going to say. It's like
our commission. We want this deal. He's like, we got to do, he called it the art of the deal, right? We can't get lost in this little tiny like bar stool issue. But I think it's the same way when it comes to like commissions and stuff, right? So like if you're this close and what's keeping you is another 1% commission, then, like just close it. You know what I mean? Get it
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because we talk about good markets, bad markets, and I'm kind of the opinion that there's no such thing. And if I could explain what I mean by that, if you're selling in a good market, you're also having to buy in a good market.
Yeah.
So you're going to sell at an inflated price. You're also going to buy at an inflated price. Ergo, if you're in a bad market, you're not going to get as much, but you're going to be able to get a lot for your money when you sell. So what I kind of tell people is, and they have to think about the price of their home differently than they've been trained to all their life. A lot of people I've worked with believe that they get to decide what their house is going to sell for, and they don't. The homeowner doesn't get to decide the price of the house. The homeowner's agent or the buyer's agent doesn't. The appraiser doesn't get to decide the price. The one and only entity out there is the market gets to decide what the value of the home is. And your value of your home is whatever the highest bidder, whatever number he writes on that check, And that alone is the price. We can use all sorts of science and math to try to get to an approximation of where we think that's going to land, but nobody has a crystal ball. We never know. So all that to say, what do we know? Well, we know what the characteristics of our house are. We know what all the other homes with those traits, those characteristics are selling for. And we know how to price at or below that. And that's where the magic starts happening. And then we just got to get people past the fact like, well, this house is worth every bit of 500,000. Well, to who? I mean, if it's worth 500,000 to you, then I'm going to tell you, don't even sell, because nobody else is going to agree with you. If you think this home is worth $500,000, then you need to hold on to it, because the rest of the market hasn't caught up with you. So that's something I have to have I have these really, people kind of think I might be being blunt. I'm not. It's just, I love you people enough to want to disappoint you with the truth and comfort you with a lie. I'm not going to tell you things that you want to hear just because it makes you feel good. Sometimes I'm going to have to tell you things that you don't love to hear, but I'm doing it because I want to see you successful.
I have another kind of story. So I had this house and I had built it and I loved it. And it was a great house. It was like 4,000 square feet. We had a custom pool. I mean, it was big. And I mean, it was a McMansion for sure. And at one point we had so much equity in the home that I was like, hey, listen, we should sell this house. We'll move to a little area that, is really popular around here. It's called Palcedro. We'll build another house and we'll live in this thing for free. Like, we won't have any payments on anybody, right? And so I hired a real estate agent, and he was a good guy. And, we had it listed for like $850. It was it was a lot of money. Anyway, so we listed it for $850. We're getting some traction on it. We're getting some interactions, but nothing's happening. And finally, realtor comes back to me and goes, hey, just so you know, the market's kind of softening up. We're seeing a lot of softness, a lot of offers coming down. He goes, but I really truly believe if you bring this down to 800, I think you're going to sell it. And that still would have achieved my goals, right? I still would have, it's $50,000 less, but it would have still achieved my goals.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I don't know. Let me think about it. So at the time I was married, and I asked my father-in-law, because he was a real estate appraiser. And he's like, that house is worth way more, blah, blah, blah. You should totally take it. But by the way, rest in peace. He's a great man. But at this one point, he was really adamant that I should stay with that price. Like 3 months later was the housing crisis in 2008 when everything went down, and that house was instantly worth $400,000. Like, it went from $850 to $400,000, and now I'm upside down in this house, and it's like, I mean, it was obviously, if you were 2008, you remember it was a disaster.
I remember. That
So
hurt.
I would say, if you're in a market and the market's deciding and you're ignoring the market, then just be prepared that there are stories out there that will really make you pay the price for not listening to the market.
Yeah. I mean, my rule of thumb, what we do is we kind of lead with our best foot forward as far as pricing goes. Pricing is the only thing that matters. If I have full control over the pricing, I could sell a home without any photos, never mind bad ones, without any listing description, never mind a bad one. If you give me pricing control, I'm going to get that home sold. I'm going to get people interested. It's going to have a bidding war on it. Those are just things I know how to do. You run into trouble when you find people who think that I can replace a bad price or an overpriced home by supplementing it with really beautiful photos and a nice drone tour and incredible marketing. No, you can't. Stop lying to yourself. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to anybody else. It's not attractive. The reality here is there's just the one thing. Price is the only thing that matters. Because why? Because it's the only thing that can trigger FOMO. Once we trigger that FOMO, that's when all that other pretty stuff comes into play. That's when the photos matter. That's when the listing description matters. All that stuff matters, but we got to get them interested. So when you're in that situation where, let's just say that you did all the right things and you did price a little bit below market and you thought you nailed it, and you're getting a ton of showings, but nobody's pulling the trigger. Well, that tells me we're about 5% off. We're 0 and 5%. We're not, it's not a huge price reduction, but we are off. Now, if you're in a scenario where you priced it the way you think you should have, you're not getting any showings. You're not getting any interest. It's just crickets. You've probably missed the mark by about 10% or more. And you really need to go back and do that math.
Okay. That's great. Now, so do you recommend this kind of process for someone who has like a multifamily? Duplex, triplex, fourplex? Do you still
absolutely
recommend this process, or do you think that it needs more of a licensed realtor?
So typically when you're selling, everything up to a quadplex at least is still going to be considered a private residential home. It's absolutely within the bounds of people of selling on their own. I know all sorts of landlords who decide to liquidate their own assets without real estate agents. There's really no difference between that quadplex or that triplex versus a single family home. There might be some complexities if there's tenants, you're going to want to address this. When I say sell it without a real estate agent, I do not mean sell on your own. Every single person who here is listening to this, listen to me really hard when I say this. You are managing a team. It's the same team of people that your real estate agent would use. It's a title company or a real estate attorney. It's professional photographers. It's getting title insurance. It's using an inspector, a building inspector to get your listing inspected. It's all of these things. You're never, ever going to DIY the legal side of this. Just because you could download the forms on the internet does not mean you should. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's smart. It's probably legal for you to step in front of a city bus. I wouldn't recommend it. So by all means, all of these legal complications, if they start getting crazy, like if you're in the middle of a divorce, do not try to sell your own home. Hire a real estate agent. If you are in a home that's subject to probate, maybe old Uncle Larry croaked and, we got to get it. Do not try to do that on your own. Sign that check to that real estate agent and laugh all the way because they're going to go through legal hell and back trying to get that home sold for you. Please do not, there are certain complications in a home that if it's not the simplest is a free and clear owned home with a single party in it. And the most complex is that it's in the middle of foreclosure and a divorce and anywhere in that spectrum, there's kind of different risk factors. I put up a quiz on my website. If you go to foolprooffsbo.com/quiz, just to see if you're curious, if you're a good fit for this. Again, my tone. I'm going to be pretty brutally honest with you. And I'm going to tell you whether it's a good move worth exploring or if it might be the dumbest thing you could ever consider. Still, even if it is something that you shouldn't consider, I'm not going to abandon you. My can't lose guarantee would still apply. You just tell me what area you're looking in. Chances are I've already got an agent in your area who will sell your home for you at a reduced commission. If I don't, I'll pick up the phone and find out who the best guy is there and I'll make that happen.
Nice. Yeah. So going back to the paperwork, I think that's the biggest pitfall, the paperwork pitfall is that one of the main reasons people hire an agent is the fear of the legal or paperwork errors. So how does your system ensure a seller stays protected and compliant without a dedicated broker?
Because I basically make people pinky swear with me. Pinky swear you're going to work with a licensed title company. Pinky swear you're going to work with a licensed attorney. There's no excuse. I will flat out refuse to work with you. I won't help you. If you try to DIY, unless you are yourself a licensed real estate attorney, which I still don't recommend you represent yourself in a deal. It's because it's still dumb to do that. But okay, if you really need to. I've actually never had that come up before. But if it did, I'm thinking maybe that would be the one exception I would make. But it just, I have to explain to people why it puts you in such jeopardy. The number one most common case in real estate courts is for sale by owner sellers getting sued by buyers for either failure to disclose or some other paperwork issue.
Like a fraudulent, something fraudulent where they knew something was wrong with it and they said, everything's great.
Well, so I'll sit here and I'll heap a bunch of shame on my fellow real estate agents. But guess what? We as human beings aren't any better. Real estate agents operate in a way that they're incentivized to operate. I've had sellers try to convince me that it was okay that they didn't talk about a broken septic tank. I had them try to convince me that, oh no, don't talk about the roof repair. They're just going to ask questions about that. I had a buyer who had more money than God find out that this seller had gotten a job transfer out to California. His wife was expecting, and therefore she lowballed the hell out of her because she knew they were desperate. I mean, so real estate agents, yeah, sure, we got our problems, but guess what? As humanity, as human beings, we're not doing much better either, folks. So it's important that, if you expect to be treated ethically, you act ethically. If you want people to be good to you, doggone it, be good to other people. So yes, the paperwork is the biggest, scariest thing in this process, and it should be, which is why you must 100% work with a licensed title company or a licensed real estate agent. I know they vary from state to state, which is why I say both.
And so to that point, the transactions that I have had where I didn't use a realtor, that is exactly what I did. Was I was like, listen, you have a contract, right? And it goes like nowadays with AI, you could probably have a contract made in 2 seconds. That would mimic so here in California, we have that's called CRE, California real estate, that's the documents, but you could have someone that would mimic it pretty close without actually, being a realtor and buying the documents. So I mean, you can have that right away, but really the take home message is that you have to go to the title company because they're the ones who are checking everything to make sure that it's all dotted, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. That's their job. And so I always say, like, if you do get into a problem where there's an error, they'll be like, hey, listen, you said this in the contract, but that's not legal, or that's not going to work, or that's the person who's double checking your work. That's the person who's double checking the realtor's work.
Exactly. Yeah. When I help people sell their homes, guess what? I don't know how to file for title insurance. I don't know how to do a title chain search. I don't know anything about this stuff. I handed over to Linda at Sunshine Title and said, here you go, Linda, figure this out. We're closing in 30 days.
Shout out to Linda.
Amen. Yeah. All the Lindas out there. So like, there's like this perception that real estate agents are kind of working this like super esoteric black magic behind the scenes. A lot of it is just project management. It's managing teams. It's making sure title's doing what they're supposed to do. It's making sure that the appraisal is happening on time. It's making sure that lending is happening as it's supposed to be happening. You know, there's no red flags, inspections, you know, it's that kind of stuff. So again, it's about having a team, not doing it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. If someone does want to, like, they're determined to sell it on their own, they don't take the quiz, they just say, I'm doing it. Let's go, Tim, I'm doing it. What is the one professional secret or tool that usually they usually overlook that makes the difference between a house sitting on the market or in a quick closing?
This is the single highest ROI item anybody in real estate will ever tell you. I'm confident of it, and nobody knows about it. It's the pre-listing inspection. Before we hit the market, before we get photos taken, anything, I convince you to go spend $500 and get your home inspected as if you were buying it. Now, that's going to do a couple of things, and I'll get to the first thing it does. Number one, it allows you to see what's wrong with your home, obviously, before the buyer does. Because my favorite tool as a buyer's agent, when I was representing a buyer, and I was a very aggressive negotiator, whether I was representing buyers or sellers, as a buyer, I would take that inspection report and I'd beat that other agent over the head with it. And I say, look at all these things wrong. This home's a piece of crap. You got to knock 20 grand off. And the thing is I knew that, look, they had already gone under, they're pending contract with me. The rest of the market sees that. What's the last thing a seller wants to do is go back on the market. Because what's everybody going to think? What's wrong with the house? What did they find during inspection? I know that, and they know that. So they're 9 times out of 10, they're going to cave and give me either all or most of my demands. Knowing that that's the biggest tactic that buyers agents, what's the best way to unload that gun before they can put it on us? We do our own listing inspection. We find out what's wrong with the house, everything that the other guy's going to find. Then what do? Once we have that report, we fix all the handyman items and lower. So if you can hire a handyman to fix it, have it fixed. If it's a loose doorknob, if it's a GFCI that's not working, if it's a light switch that leads to nowhere, all of those things we want addressed. Have them done. The buyers or the inspector will then come out 9 times out of 10. All the guys I work with will come do a free reinspect on the punch list. And if you've knocked out all the items of the punch, they then give you a cleaner, it might not be totally cleaner inspection report, because there are things on there that I'm going to recommend you don't fix. I'm going to recommend you don't fix things that are end of life. If it's a hot water heater that's 8 years old, maybe it's got 2 years life left in it. Maybe it's a 20-year roof and it's 18 years old, but it's not leaking. It's totally fine. Those kind of things we're going to price into the home. We're just going to say, okay, that's fine. We're going to knock maybe $1,000, $2,000 off for the water heater and the roof, whatever it is. And we're going to be able to articulate that. The third thing that we address is any safety or code violations. If you have an electrical wire that's arcing in the attic, if you have a loose handrail that Martha's going to lean on and fall down the stairs, we're going to fix those items as well. So it's basically 3 buckets: handyman stuff that we're going to fix, code violations and safety issues that we're going to fix, and then the rest of the stuff we're just going to leave. And that rest of the stuff really, that's cosmetic issues too. Maybe it's old carpet, whatever. So now, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris.
I was gonna say that actually was on my question list. So there's always this like debate: flooring and paint.
Yeah.
Do we fix it or do we credit it?
I mean, unless it's no for flooring, no. Paint, maybe. If the paint
if it's like
is
lime green paint, you're like, I got to get this out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I've sold homes in bidding wars that were the ugliest homes you've ever seen in your life. So what I'm saying is, if your home doesn't sell, it's not because you have a lime green wall. There's probably something that we didn't do beforehand. Now, if it's just something you can't sleep at night. It's something that's keeping you awake. And you're like, God, I got to, fine, let's hire a painter, 100, 200, whatever dollars, come paint that wall some neutral color. And maybe that eliminates the worry. But I've seen homes sell with literal holes in the roof. So, I mean, homes could sell, but the most important thing here is by taking away that negotiation tool from the buyer's agent, you go under contract knowing that you're going to get darn close to what you're asking for, because they're not going to be able to come by and beat you with that inspection report. Because here's why. Unlike every other seller out there who hides their flaws, who tries to cover up that repair spot that they made in the basement where there was a leak, or they don't want to mention that the septic tank, leaked or something like that. We give them a report. We say, Mr. Buyer, I'm not dumb enough to think that you're dumb enough to believe that this house is perfect. It's a 45-year-old house, and brand new build homes have punch lists this big. So here's everything we found wrong with this home. Please, I recommend you get your own inspection as well for your own due diligence, but I want you to know what you're dealing with before you even make an offer. Dude, you've just set yourself up as an honest guy who has zero surprises. And now when it comes time to negotiate, that cachet that you're bringing into the negotiation, you're now negotiating way up here from a position of authority instead of down here where you're begging them to take your offer. It's a much different conversation. And that's the single biggest ROI thing I can offer you.
How do you receive an offer from somebody if you don't use a realtor? So in other words, like we have paperwork, right? And like in the situations I was talking about, like I knew the guy, he knew me, we wrote up a contract, signed it. But like, how do you negotiate? Like, in other words, like with a realtor, your realtor collects the offer, goes to you, goes back to their realtor, it's kind of a back and forth process, but there's paperwork along the way, right? They didn't go like, hey, I'll give you $420 for it. Like you know what I mean? They wrote it down. So how do people write down the offers when let's say that I don't have a realtor as a seller, but they don't have a realtor as a buyer. How do they write down the offer that they want to give me? Or do you give them the paperwork and say, hey, fill this out?
It depends what kind of relationship you have with your attorney or your title company. A lot of times attorneys and title companies have e-sign capabilities, which is great. So they'll actually walk through and help you fill out all the paperwork. You get them an e-sign copy and they send that back to you. One thing I'll tell you, there's a million different ways. I mean, written out old fashioned way works just fine. It just has to be reviewed by a legal pro. The one thing I will never tell you to do is we never, ever, ever negotiate over the phone. We never negotiate verbally. Anything you say verbally, anything the other side offers you verbally, it's non-binding. It doesn't matter. It's statute of frauds. It's what it's called. So there's absolutely nothing that you can gain by having a verbal negotiation and expect it to have any carrying value. Now, you can have a verbal discussion, get it all down on paper. Now we can pivot off that. In the future, though, if somebody says, hey, listen, I'm fine paying $450 for this place, but I really need you to throw in those 4 bar stools. And I say, yeah, sure, no problem. And you get to closing and I've taken the bar stools. There's nothing you can do about it because it was verbal. It wasn't put in the contracts. Everything has to be in writing for it to be enforceable.
That's good. When we talk about healthy wealth, because the idea I always say is that if you have wealth but you don't have health, then you're not wealthy. There's a difference between having money and being wealthy, and I believe that you have to have good health. And so we do talk about that on this show quite a bit. One of the things I think about when it comes to selling a house is the stress of selling the house. So
yeah.
Are people taking on more stress by hiring somebody or less stress by doing it themselves? How does that work in your opinion?
It's totally an individual thing. I've had people quit on me after a week. Like just by asking him to go to Home Depot and pick up some gardening tools. They're like, I can't do this. So people have all sorts of personal constitutions on what they consider tough or not. But I'll tell you, it absolutely can be stressful. It can be very stressful. It's stressful to give away money to a real estate agent if you don't think they did a lot for you. It's also stressful for you to think you're leaving money on the table because you don't have a pro in your corner. So both of those eventualities can lead to stress. What I found the best way to alleviate stress, and this is for me personally, but I know a lot of people feel this way, is it's knowing the subject matter. It's understanding what happens, when it happens. So if I'm giving a giant pile of money away to a real estate agent, but I know that because I'm going through a divorce, that they had to spend 7 hours at the courthouse and they had to call 300 people that afternoon and all that. Well, all of a sudden that check that I'm writing starts to become smaller and smaller in my mind because I realize all that went in behind it. Vice versa. If I know that I could save a ton of money, but it's going to take a lot of work, selling your house it's simple, but it's not easy. And what I mean by that is it's simple to run a marathon. It's putting one foot in front of the other for 26.2 miles and you don't stop, but it's not easy. There's nothing easy about that. selling a home is something I consider in the same way. It's a lot of steps. It's eating an elephant. It's a big job, but you're eating it one bite at a time and you're getting through the process. And that's what my blueprint, it just basically lays all those steps out. And yeah, if you're the kind of person who is okay not looking at the end, but just looking at the step right in front of you, you'll get to the end. It will happen. You just keep on driving. But if you're somebody who's just going to be focused on that huge job, yeah, that could definitely lead to a lot of stress.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. So when it comes to like running a specialized business like the Foolproof FSBO, what are your non-negotiable daily habits to ensure you have the physical energy to like run this company?
Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely no Mr. Universe, but I do spend a lot of time working on that kind of stuff. I go to the gym every day. I hit CrossFit. I ride my bike there. I get some time to just kind of pray and meditate, listen to an audiobook to and from. I get about an hour a day, just because it takes me about a half hour to ride to the gym. So it's great. I get my full hour in there. I'm up at 4:30 every morning. I start my day. I get a lot. I try to get most of my stuff done early as possible, so I could feel like I got more done by 9 a.m. than most people get done all day. That's a nice little. It makes me feel good, and then I feel like from 9 a.m. on, it's just gravy. It's just bonus. I started, you know what I started doing, Chris? We were talking about AI earlier. I actually created a digital twin inside of Claude. So I actually went in and I asked Claude, if I was to make a digital twin, what would that look like? And it gave me a bunch of markdown files so I could fill out who I am, what I'm about, what my philosophy is, what matters to me, who my kids are, what my family life is like. Now, a lot of people are like, holy crap, you're giving all that information away to Big Brother? Yeah, dude. I work for the government. They got everything on us anyway.
They already had it.
We're screwed. Yeah. So but what's interesting about it is, I was able to upload my medical files, my me data, my current supplement stack, and it gave me like amazing insights on, hey, this is working well for you. I would dial back on this, but check this out. And since I've started doing that, I mean, it's just been amazing. So yeah, that's been my kind of health hack I've been experimenting with in this first quarter of 26.
Yeah. Shout out to Claude. Claude's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's the most human feeling chat interaction that I've had.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's so close to the next level. You know what I mean? It's already, if you don't know, if you're listening right now, and this isn't what you came here for, but, Claude has a thing called co-work, and you can basically say, hey, I want you to go log into my email and send this guy an email. And I want you to go here and check that. And like, it just starts opening windows and logging into things. And it's, again, going back to what Tim said, it's like, oh, Big Brother. It's like, man, they already got it all. Trust me. If there's a reason for you to be on a list, you're on it.
Yeah, we missed our opportunity. Back in 2001, they kind of took all of our liberties, and now we're just kind of dealing with it.
That's
right. It sucks.
You're 100% right. Well, Tim, this has been awesome for me. I really enjoy talking about the stuff. I love to geek out on real estate and investments of any kind, really. But so is there something we didn't cover today that you'd like to talk about?
The last thing I would like to offer your listeners is I have a free ebook. It's our launch plan. It teaches you how to get your house live and on the market in as little as 7 days. So if you go to foolprooffsbo.com/ebook, it's there for you for free. I would love for you to check it out. Chris, I can't tell you what an honor it was to show up on your show, man. This is awesome. I really appreciate you having me here.
I really enjoyed it too. So we'll definitely have the link to the ebook on our description. So if you're listening to this, it'll be in the description, and then we'll also have the link to the quiz as well. So Tim, I really appreciate having you on the show. I appreciate all the listeners out there. We're just growing. We're growing. I do make this little plea at the end, and I say, like, if you liked what we're doing, comment, subscribe, share it. I make this joke that my mom checks my subscribers, so make sure you subscribe so I can make her proud, things like that. But no, this is the exact kind of information I want people to get out there, because to me, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're an average American and you sell 3 homes in your lifetime, right? And the aggregate value of those homes is, $1.5 million. And that's $90,000 that you have turned over to real estate agents. Again, some have really worked hard for it, and I'm not discounting that. But that's $90,000 that could have been invested somewhere else, into the house, into the market, into a rental. I mean, those are real dollars. And so this is exactly why I want this show. It's exactly why I want to tell people, like, hey, there are options out there, and you're never going to get this from mainstream media, and you're certainly not going to get it from the guy that's in your chamber of commerce. So, that guy needs to make sure that you go call his buddy who's the real estate agents. This is exactly what I'm looking for when I do this. If you guys hear of somebody that you want me to listen to or get on the show, please put it in the comments. I'm happy to talk to you guys. I'm happy to continue to educate people and make them more successful both in their health and in their wealth. So Tim, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Once again, it's been an honor.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate you. Again, like I said, it's just been growing and growing, and we're just super excited about where we're headed with this. So, all right, everybody, have a great day.